Chapter 1. Your dreams can come true. Every human being thrills at the thought of having dreams come true. The idea means different things to different people. To you, it may mean physical health, the ability to walk, run, play, to engage in activity. To me, it may mean abundance, money, a home, a car, opulence. To another, dreams may involve education, or the ability to get along with people. Whatever your personal desires may be, as long as they do not hurt yourself or someone else, you have a right to attain them. And you can. The ability to attain your goals, to control your experiences and have them result in happiness, prosperity, and success, lies in your own mind and the way you use it. This means you control your own experience. You are really in charge of your affairs and the way they are to develop. Let us sum it up this way. My thought is in control of my experience, and I can direct my thinking. It is the most astounding statement, and at first may even seem far-fetched. But because you are a thoughtful person with an open mind, ready to be shown what you may not at first understand, even what does not seem entirely believable, you will be willing to take that statement under consideration and hear the reasons for it. Certainly, you do not have to believe it, nor do you wish to, until you have investigated it, heard the arguments in its favor, and observed whether or not it works for you after you have given it a fair trial. That is the way the intelligent mind approaches any new idea. No one can force a new belief upon another. No one has the right to attempt to do so. Only when we have made the appropriate intellectual investigations for ourselves can we honestly decide whether to accept or reject what is presented to us. We are not going to allow ourselves to be coerced into anything of which our own good judgment does not approve. However, we cannot bring our good judgment to bear upon anything in fullest measure until we have been fair in our efforts to understand it, and then faithful in our attempts to test it, to see if it actually does work for us. If you have been brought up under Christian influences in the home and church, you will probably feel particularly sensitive about things that sound religious. You will be inclined to say, I do not want anything to disturb my faith in God as an overruling providence, and in Jesus as the way-shower for men and women through his practical application of a loving, useful life and his triumphant conquest even over death itself. In response, the Science of Mind viewpoint suggests, you are exactly right. On the other hand, if you've lived apart from church activities and associations, or you have found them unfitted to your intellectual turn of mind, and you want something on which you can base your thinking and faith, something that retains a clear concept of the orderly world of science in which natural law and order prevail, then we say, that is a rational viewpoint, and we believe you will find much that is of interest and value to you in the science of mind. Possibly, though, you may be just a busy man or woman who is desirous of a wholesome, successful life and a sense of security. If you're going to give your attention to a new way of thinking, it will have to be something which makes sense and which you can apply in your everyday affairs because you know it works. This is a realistic and reasonable attitude according to the Science of Mind viewpoint. So, if there is an understanding of God that meets your daily needs in a world of practical affairs, you want it. If there is some system of reasoning which conforms to your keenest intellectual understanding and scientific knowledge, it is of interest to you. If you can find something which for you will satisfy the deep inner hunger that lies in the hearts of all people, whether they ever acknowledge that hunger or not, you are just as eager as anyone else to find satisfaction. You have practical daily needs that must be met, intellectual demands which seek rational fulfillment, and sincere spiritual longings that have to be fulfilled. This is true of all persons. You are no exception. Now that we have a foundation for mutual understanding and a willingness to look into an exciting new way of thinking, let us go back to our earlier statement, enlarge it, and give it more careful consideration. The ability to control my experiences and have them result in happiness, health, prosperity, and success lies in my own mind and my use of it. How can this be so? Physical science has proved that everything can be scientifically reduced to one ultimate invisible essence, something which cannot be directly contacted by the physical senses. It is therefore only reasonable to say that originally everything must have come from that essence. According to one's way of thinking, different names are given to it: energy, principle, universal intelligence, universal mind, consciousness, spirit, God. For our purpose, it does not particularly matter which of these names we use. Let us call it mind. This probably has the broadest meaning for most of us, without too many limiting ideas connected with it. Scientists show us that energy, an aspect of mind, is interchangeable with substance and is everywhere, within us, around us, filling all space to the limitless reaches of the universe. Everything we can see, touch, taste, smell, or contact in any physical way, we are told, is but some aspect of this universal energy or mind, which has been channeled into specific and tangible form so that our senses become aware of it. For instance, on a summer day, entirely invisible vapor arises from the ocean and soars high in the sky. By contacting a different air temperature, it becomes a cloud. If colder air still further condenses it, it turns into raindrops, which help fill a lake. In winter, a further change takes place, and instead of raindrops, there are snowflakes. Winter also changes the water of the lake to ice. In every instance, we have only that original vapor, though it has taken forms of which our senses are aware. Similarly, universal mind, though always basically the same, appears in many different forms. Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, revolutionized and clarified much scientific thinking, and at the same time cleared the way for the establishment of firmer foundations in philosophic and religious thought. In essence, it means that energy and mass are one and the same and are interchangeable. From our point of view, this means that mind, God, acting as energy, becomes what we know as the physical world according to law. They are one and the same thing, although God, being infinite, could never be depleted by what is created. We may reasonably declare that everything which will ever exist must also come from God. In fact, there is nothing else out of which anything could be made. Mind is everywhere. After all, this is just the same as what we were taught to say in earliest childhood. God is everywhere. That statement may not have meant much to us then, but now we know that this universal mind is everywhere. Therefore, it is within us. There can be no exception to that everywhereness. This gives us a key to the whole nature of life and allows us to understand that not only our individual minds, but our bodies as well, are expressions and a part of mind. At the beginning of this world system of ours, there must have been nothing but the great universal mind, God, and out of itself the tangible universe was formed. Those of us with Christian backgrounds were taught that God, universal mind, is omnipresent, and that we too were made in His image and likeness. So now we arrive at the conclusion that we, at our level, possess a creativity similar to that of the universal mind. We create in our experience whatever we choose: health, happiness, prosperity, employment, any good thing we need, through the process of our constructive thought, through which the unlimited creativity of mind acts, giving form to our desired objective. The only way for us to constructively use the creativity of this invisible but everywhere present mind is by means of our thought, faith, and conviction, and nothing else. Today, the old idea of our being like God, the image and likeness concept, applies in a new and different way, but very important way. Since we are created of that which God is, mind, we are made of and possess godlike qualities, and we have the right and the ability to develop and use them. In fact, it is necessary for us to do this if we are to fully express the life within us. Later we shall discuss these qualities, but just now we are interested in the creative aspect of our minds. There is created for you what you choose, out of and through the action of the one universal mind, which is everywhere and is accessible to you. You avail yourself of the creative action of mind through what you believe. Perhaps you are not quite ready to accept this statement, but it is an interesting one and well worth remembering. How can you learn to believe? First of all, you must remember that you can think whatever you please. No one can direct your thought processes. They are under your control. Someone may say, you must think as a Republican, or you have to be a Democrat in your thinking, or my church's way of thinking is the only right one. You must think that way also. Or when you see a blackboard, you have to think of it as being white. All of this is ridiculous. You may have to make your actions conform to what those in authority tell you, but they simply cannot control your thinking. You will go on thinking just as you want to. In that respect, you are independent, no matter where you live or what your circumstances may be. If your thinking processes are really under your personal control, as you will agree they must be, and if thought is acted upon by the creativity of mind to produce results according to your belief, then you surely do have the power to become the master of your own affairs and to bring to pass those good conditions you desire. This makes the omnipresence of God and the made in the image and likeness of God very practical and important ideas, rather than abstract theological concepts. They can now become important truths which are part of your everyday life and are therefore of prime importance in all the practical aspects of living. Let us keep in mind that we not only have the God-given ability to do this kind of results-oriented thinking, but that we also have the right to do it. In connection with the God power within you, there are many other aspects, but this one, the right and the ability and the power to think creatively so that you have more desirable experiences, is so impressive and so exceedingly important that it should be the basis of your life. Even though you may not fully accept or understand this statement yet, you can begin to put it into actual application for yourself. You can start right now to make it work. The true story is told of a man in one of our eastern cities who had been in one job for 25 years at a very mediocre salary. He had become extremely dissatisfied, wanted to get out of the rut, but didn't know how to do it. When he accepted a few simple but profound ideas like these, he began to realize that he had the right and the ability to declare better conditions for himself. In less than 1 month from the time he began to think in this way and to act accordingly, his salary was increased to exactly 3 times what it had been before. When we get only a glimpse of the true nature of mind, the God power within us, and use it, the results are truly amazing. Physically, financially, socially, intellectually, and spiritually, it pays us to learn about and to use the principles of creative thinking. The student in a laboratory who tries a valid experiment and fails does not give up. He tries again and again until he proves it for himself. Shouldn't we be equally faithful in testing these scientific laws of mind? Our personal welfare demands continued, faithful endeavor and experimentation. There is but one mind. It is omnipresent. It is all there is. Everything visible and invisible is but a manifestation of this one mind, the result of its creative action, and the becoming of that which it creates. Because you are made in the image and likeness of God, you can use your mind according to its nature, and by choice bring your good to you. Now, let us think of a circle that is divided into 3 equal pie-shaped parts. And think of it as representing the entire universe, all that is. All of it is mind. For the sake of clarity, we divide it into 3 sections, but it is all mind. Part 1 we may call conscious mind. Conscious mind is that faculty with which you think and plan. With it you become aware of ideas, analyze, make decisions, and carry on all mental processes. Let us think of it as being like the superintendent of a manufacturing plant, who thinks out what is to be done and gives instructions. Needless to say, however, nothing could be accomplished if there were not some department to take those instructions and carry them out. So, Part 2 is the aspect of mind that obeys the directions of Part 1. Think of it as the manufacturing plant itself, where the instructions are taken and worked out. From the science of mind viewpoint, we call this the subjective mind, the law which acts and creates automatically according to instructions. It is obedient to the directions of Part 1. Without Part 1, it would be useless due to lack of instructions. Without Part 2, Part 1 would be helpless for want of something to take directions and bring them to fulfillment. One part, therefore, is just as important as the other. Now, Part 3 is the only part of the universe you can experience, see, touch, or contact with your physical senses. It is the realm of tangible things and conditions. Here are the results of what was directed by Part 1 and carried out by Part 2. Parts 1 and 2 instigate and carry out. Part 3 is the result or effect. There is also a tiny circle right in the center of the other circle. This smaller circle represents you, and it touches parts 1, 2, and 3. So notice that you too possess the 3 aspects of mind: direction, creation, result. Remember, 1. Everything is mind, and you are therefore a part of it. 2. Mind responds and produces according to your believing thought. 3. You have the right and power to think what you want to think, so you may create good conditions for yourself and others. 4. Therefore, you control your own good and may transform your life into an experience of happiness, health, and prosperity. Chapter 2. Your Mind, Your Health. The first thing you should do at this point is to realize that you can achieve vibrant health through right thinking. At the very beginning, right now, a state of expectancy is a great asset. A state of uncertainty, one moment thinking, perhaps, and the next moment thinking, I don't know, will never get desired results. Even God can give you nothing until you make up your mind about what you expect. The principle involved in this approach to well-being may be summed up in the words, mind responds to mind. It is done unto you as you believe. Therefore, your bodily conditions are governed by your thought processes, an idea now widely corroborated by psychosomatic medicine. In order to understand this principle so you can apply it, refer to the circle illustration at the end of the last chapter. We called Part 1 the conscious mind, that aspect of mind in us with which we do our thinking and reasoning. We referred to Part 2 as the subjective mind. Subjective means under the direction of, and this is true about that portion of mind which acts as law. It is the creative, obedient, formative power, though this does not mean it is any less important. We need always to remember that there is but one universal mind. Each one of us uses a portion of it. Really, each one of us is a portion of it. For all, everything is mind. Our designating its different activities simply enables us to understand more easily the way it works and allows us to use it more intelligently. In considering the creation of health by right thinking, we first need to realize that through universal law, the body is built and automatically maintained. Law is constantly at work sustaining God's perfect idea of health. It keeps us breathing, keeps our hearts beating, takes care of our temperature, circulates our blood, digests our food, eliminates refuse, and does everything which keeps the marvelously intricate machinery of the body in operation. Universal law is far wiser than any chemist in the world and is forever at work. It never sleeps, and in our sleep, the law takes care of all our physical needs and gets us into good condition for the activities of the waking hours to come. Certainly, we owe a vast debt of gratitude to that obedient law of mind in action. In thousands of ways, it is eminently wise, for it does many things we could not possibly know enough about to direct it to do. There is a second way, however, in which law works, and that is by acting on our habits. A habit is the result of something we have done with deliberate attention and conscious effort so many times that we do not now need to think specifically about it when doing it. That is, the law of mind responds to a persistent idea and automatically maintains it. We can talk and walk and do scores of different kinds of work and play while still thinking about other things. But we could not do so at first. We had to form persistent thought patterns before these activities could be released from our conscious attention. In the matter of habits, we have found that this very accommodating and capable function of mind will accept any thought pattern we persistently give to it and will, from then on, automatically maintain that pattern for us. We are reasonable and wise to give over into its care those things which would be advantageous to us. There are many attitudes and activities in which we ought to be more proficient, which would make us more agreeable companions, more capable workers, happier individuals, more skillful, adaptable, and efficient. So we can be more healthy and more prosperous, and we can advance our own well-being in many ways by simply deciding what we desire to be or to do, and then giving the matter enough conscious attention so that it becomes a habitual thought pattern. Then the law of mind will maintain it for us, since the law of mind is obedient to conscious direction. Here is a phrase which describes one of the great, important, and valuable ways in which our thought works. Mind responds to mind. Mind is intelligence, and of course, intelligence responds to intelligence. We can put this principle into operation in regard to our health, either to prevent illness or to heal it after it is developed. We all know that in the process of living, millions of body cells are being replaced daily. Millions of new cells are constantly growing within our bodies, and they immediately take on the atmosphere of the surroundings in which they find themselves. The atmosphere or tone of the body may be either wholesome, happy, optimistic, and therefore healthy, or the opposite, gloomy, apprehensive, frightened, fearful, anxious, discouraged, weak, and sickly. This atmosphere is the sum total of the way we are allowing ourselves to think and feel. Maybe we are really ill. If so, it is especially necessary that we give today's new cells the happy atmosphere in which to live and work. For by doing so, we get at least that much of our system into good order. If we can maintain a positive mental atmosphere, tomorrow's new cells added to today's supply will bring us that much nearer recovery. Scientists assert that in only 11 months, all the cells of the body are made new. So, day after day in thought, we can add to our experience of wholesomeness and health, and in this way redeem the whole body from illness. There is ample medical proof regarding the effect of sad, gloomy, anxious thoughts upon the general welfare and the functions of the body, and also proof about the healing power of right thinking. This is nothing we need to take on blind faith. It is scientifically verifiable knowledge. The beliefs we've accepted, to which law automatically responds, are continually being brought forth into our experience. The results are good health or illness, depending upon what we have believed. Because of this principle and our understanding of it, we can keep ourselves well, happy, and free of disease. Or, if we have become ill, we can bring about the necessary healing. If the science of mind did nothing else for us, this alone would be an unspeakably great blessing. In order for us to bring to pass any specific result, there has to be a particular pattern of thought through which the result may manifest. That pattern of thought is created by the way you think. Your thinking is the creator of your experience. The unlimited universal mind in you, as you, thinks and speaks and creates your good through you, when you are wise enough to permit it to. Now you can declare your own health, because you know you are of the infinite. You may be assured of perfect results, because what is termed your mind is an individualization of the one mind and possesses its creativity. That all-wise and all-powerful mind flows creatively through you and can, by means of your belief and thought, fulfill your needs and supply a greater experience of good. Anyone who observes carefully will soon accumulate much evidence to prove that bodily illness is produced by wrong thinking and that it can be healed by right thinking. The British Medical Journal has said, "There is not a tissue in the human body wholly removed from the influence of the spirit." The former chief surgeon and superintendent of the Clifton Springs Sanatorium at Clifton Springs, New York, said, "A large majority of the surgical cases that come to me should never really have come. They could have been headed off. Wrong moral and mental attitudes created functional disturbances in the physical organism, and these in turn became organic or structural disease. At this point, I get them as a surgeon, but they could have been headed off." E.A. Strecker, in his book Mental Hygiene, said, "Fully 50% of the problems of the acute stages of illness and 75% of the difficulties of convalescence have their primary origin not in the body, but in the mind of the patient." Dr. Franz Alexander has said, "Hostility, suppressed for years, like a boiling volcano which never erupts, is the fundamental cause of malignant high blood pressure for which no physical cause has ever been found." One doctor tells of a woman who greatly disliked her son-in-law, yet for the sake of seeing her daughter, she visited in their home once each year. Every time she went, she suffered from arthritis. After coming away from his presence, she recovered. Hundreds of such examples could be given, but they do us very little good if we do not prove the principle for ourselves. The law of mind in action manifests for us the beliefs we speak into it. When we understand there is a definite law with which we are working, it is much easier to have the faith required to bring healing. Remember, we are spiritual beings. The real I, our special individuality, is God in us, and as such, must of course be perfect. This I functions through the intellect, the emotions, and the body, all parts of one indivisible whole. The following simple procedures, practiced daily in a persistent, happy, and expectant manner, will soon produce a good effect upon your health. Night and morning, try to set apart a time in which to be quiet, to commune with your real self. This becomes the period in which you clarify your mental atmosphere. Be as relaxed physically as you can. But neither the position you occupy, the chair in which you sit, nor the room has anything to do with the real work you are doing. Merely see to it that there is no physical discomfort while you are attempting to direct your thinking. Now that some of the bodily tension, which is the bane of our anxious way of living, has been released, say with conviction and feeling, I am strong and free through the action of God in me. I am well and successful in everything I do. Repeat this until you feel the thrill of it all through you. It is a wonderful tonic. After that, spend 10 minutes thinking over some part of this chapter, assimilating it more thoroughly. Or have a quiet prayer time in which you do not ask for things or conditions, but name them, accept them as already belonging to you, and give thanks for them. This whole procedure will probably take about 20 minutes. But will it be worthwhile? You would not start on a day's trip in your car without an adequate supply of gas and oil, would you? Why start out on your day's work without getting yourself properly supplied physically, emotionally, and spiritually? A feeling of complete well-being will diffuse through you at the conclusion of this quiet time. See if you cannot keep this high consciousness all day. Even if this process does not seem to mean much the first day or so, keep at it. It involves a process of changing your whole way of life, and it requires the re-education of your body, your emotions, your intellect, and your spiritual outlook. Be fair to yourself. Keep on doing it. Plant deeply in your mind these 4 basic ideas. 1. You are completely surrounded by and are a part of universal mind. Mind penetrates your very being. It is what you are. 2. This mind is always creative, manifesting what you think and believe as form or as some experience. 3. Universal mind answers to your mind. Mind creates for you according to the pattern you make for it, by your thoughts of good or not so good. Your task, therefore, is to maintain only positive, uplifting, harmonious thoughts. 4. Because of this, you can choose to remain in good health or to be healed if you are now ill. In the same manner, you may choose and bring into your experience any other good condition. To declare yourself into good health is one of the greatest blessings you could ever enjoy. The simple explanations given here are intended to start you on the way to such declarations, because you can now begin to understand what is needed to bring about healing. Chapter 3. Your Thinking and Finances. Are you interested in making more money? In running your business more successfully? In getting a better salary? Of course you are. You want to be prosperous, and that is only right and sensible. The plain, practical, everyday problem of money-making is a definite part of living, and the answer to it is summed up in these words. Prosperity awaits man's recognition and acceptance of it. Or this idea can be stated another way. Your financial success already exists, but awaits your seeing it and accepting it as your own. So far in this book, we have discovered that we are surrounded by limitless mind, energy, out of which everything is made. Also, we have found that the nature of the universe is always to take form according to a pattern, through the process of law. Through our belief and conviction, we provide patterns for the manifestation of law. We may often be helped by realizing that the universe is infinite, that we can always draw on it for any desired good, and that there is no limit to the good which can be manifest. When we say it awaits man's recognition, We mean that as soon as we intellectually understand the nature of the unseen part of our universe and the way it works, and wholeheartedly believe in it, then we can more effectively use it. If someone told you he had deposited $1,000 in your name at a certain bank, but you did not believe it, it would do you no good, even though you were in great need. The money could lie there, idle and useless, even though you starved to death. Even if you did believe it, but did nothing to make use of it, the money still would do you no good. In order for you to benefit from having the money, you would need to go to the bank and begin drawing on that account. So it is with this principle we desire to use. For not even your intelligent understanding of the accessibility and the limitless nature of infinite creativity will be of any advantage to you unless you make proper use of it. Learn to draw on your spiritual bank account. Please keep clearly in mind that it is spiritual, that everything, including money, is spirit, mind, God, either visible or invisible. Remember the vapor which changed to ice? The material world is like that. Every tangible thing you see, possess, or contact in any way is but an expression of spirit, manifesting according to a pattern. If you want more money, you merely need to place your order in this cosmic storehouse to have a greater supply of good become tangible in your experience. It is important for you to identify yourself with that greater financial supply which you desire, and you cannot do this by thinking about it as though it were impossible or unlikely, or regretting that you do not now have it. Instead, you must train yourself to think about it with a feeling that reasonably and naturally it already is yours. The money in the bank is yours, even though you may not have checked on it yet. You do not have to stop and argue with yourself about its value or accessibility. Likewise, the essence of the all-surrounding universal mind is available to you and becomes your experience according to the pattern you choose. If you choose money, then money you will have. It would be well worth your while to devote some time in your regular routine to get yourself into a mental state of real belief in regard to this spiritual bank account of yours. Just as soon as you truly believe and feel with your whole being that your good is available, when you accept it and know it is yours, then it is yours. When you believe something good is yours, the universal has no choice but to respond to that belief. This involves a process of identification by which you not only believe in your financial welfare, but you also act as though it is now yours. When you have a good bank account, you certainly are not going to act impoverished. Of course not. You will think, appear, and act prosperous. Your every attitude will indicate that you are financially successful, for you have identified yourself with prosperity. Anyone who sees you will immediately get this impression. Surely, then, you can begin acting that way now, as you realize that you have access to the universal storehouse, which is limitless. To make your financial welfare concrete, that is, to bring it out of the invisible realm of mind into the visible, tangible realm of your experience, there are certain steps you need to take. First of all, you must consistently believe in its existence. When you actually expect it, you are well on the way to meeting it halfway. This form of true expectancy is the highest test of faith. Next, you need to know that you have the right and the ability to declare financial success for yourself, to accept the creative action of mind in this particular way, and also to know you have practical skills and abilities which can be translated into the things people want and will gladly pay for. The wise man never declares his oncoming good and then sits idly by waiting for it to arrive. He uses every bit of his knowledge, initiative, and skill, the action of God in him, to make himself so valuable and useful that financial rewards automatically flow to him. Some people may be sorely in need of money and have no place to work where they can earn anything. If this is your case, continue to look about you for opportunities, but do that only as a secondary matter. Your task is to understand the activity of mind and your creative use of it. Believe in it, declare into it, and accept the answer. Know that your order has been received and is being filled. With this firmly implanted in your mind, you will be rightly guided when you look for work, for ways to increase your business, for greater outlets for your skill, or whatever other good you may desire. If at the start you are successful in finding the employment, new plans, or whatever else you may have specifically wanted, then be very sure you fill at least a portion of your time afterward by giving service which will be of help to others. It is necessary that you express yourself in a worthy endeavor, because life is action, and you must be creative in some respect. You might in fact be greatly surprised to find that kind, generous, free service may be just the thing to set in motion the activities which will result in a job you need, increased business, or some other financial circumstance you desire. The same is true in regard to giving money. It returns with a certainty and promptness that is astounding. There are hundreds of great needs in the world today, where every dollar you can spare will serve some worthy purpose. You should not give carelessly, but when you know of a truly fine work which is being carried on and which needs your support, you do yourself an injustice if you do not contribute. You should not give care, but when you know of a truly fine work which is being carried on and which needs your support, you do yourself an injustice if you do not contribute to it. Whether the amount of cash you have is large or small, what you give to others will seem temporarily to deplete your supply, to leave a vacuum. And to say nature abhors a vacuum may be trite, but it is a principle of vital importance in this connection. When you give intelligently and generously from what you have for the good of others, you may be absolutely certain that there will be a spiritual response, and concrete good will come rushing back to fill that empty space. Whether your funds be great or small, you need to get all possible pleasure and satisfaction out of them. This cannot be the case if you are fearful about spending. If you count too carefully, if you limit yourself unduly because you do not know how much money you will have later on, you are restricting your good. If you are going to be rich in concrete ways, you must first be rich in consciousness and have the feeling of abundance. You should let common sense guide your expenditures at all times, but get all the happiness and satisfaction you can out of every dollar you spend. If you are paying rent, buying clothes or food, anything, you are using your money to get something you would rather have than the money, or else you would not use it in that way. Be glad about what you're doing. Never, never hand over your money in payment for anything grudgingly. If your best judgment suggests a purchase, make the transaction one of mutual goodwill, be it great or small. And the habit of silently blessing your money as you hand it over is worth cultivating, for then it carries with it an intangible value which will bring good things back to you. Learn to bless your bills as you pay them. They indicate the good you have received, and they express the faith others have in you. You may desire to use money for some particular purpose, but wonder if it is right to do so. Am I selfish in using my money for this, you ask? Use this test. Will it be of value to me, and because of it, will I be of greater help, inspiration, encouragement, or practical help to others? If so, it is right. If through me a greater good can come to others, this money will be wisely spent. If you wish to spend money on something that will start you in a new and worthy service, even though you are using your last dollar, use it wisely, freely, and happily. To bravely step out and do what you can, with calm faith, having made your claim on universal creativity, and then with intelligent action as a follow-up, will bring the financial abundance you desire. The science of mind teaches a way of thinking which gives you an awareness of spiritual principles on which you may rely. It shows you how to use the law of mind, how to think effectively, to pray affirmatively, for what you need, so your life becomes wholesome, successful, and good. It teaches that your prayers are always answered if they are declared in sincerity, believed in, and acted upon by you with common sense and practicality. It declares that you have a perfect right to use the creativity of your mind to provide abundant finances for a fuller, richer experience in living. Are you eager for success? Then ask yourself very candidly, what have I done to earn it? Have I put my very best efforts into my work? Have I developed something new and unique in the service of the business I'm in? Have I made myself especially proficient in one particular field, and am I capitalizing on it? To think how best to meet the needs of those with whom I do business, so they are most benefited? Can I see things from their viewpoint and adapt myself? Am I constantly improving my skills, my methods, and my personality? What have I done to earn my desired success? In his parable of the talents, Jesus made plain the necessity of using what we possess. A man gave to one servant 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. On his return, he called for the money and a report as to how it had been used. It must have been with considerable pride and satisfaction that the 5-talent man could report he had doubled his money. So had the man with the 2 talents. They had used good judgment and worked energetically. They had not wasted time by idly wishing more money were theirs, but had utilized their energies to a good purpose. And so they had passed the test and were given positions of great honor and responsibility. They had proved their initiative, willingness, reliability, and business acumen. But the man who made no practical use of what he had, his 1 talent, found upon the master's return that even that one was taken from him. It is a good lesson for all of us to consider. Ask yourself again, what have I done to earn my success? To achieve your desired prosperity, you must, first, understand that there is an unlimited supply which surrounds you. Know you have a right to draw on it. Believe in the response it always gives. And then believingly state your desire and accept the answer. This enables you to get rid of all anxiety about money and supply. Second, whatever action you must take must be taken enthusiastically and energetically. This is your part in bringing about your prosperity. When you have declared your good, you must not try to figure out how it is to come. That is for universal mind to decide, and it is entirely capable of doing so. Never question how. Just know it does, and that it works intelligently. Remember, 1. Recognize the truth that universal abundance surrounds you. 2. Understand and believe in the intelligent, creative responsiveness of the one mind. 3. Recognize your right and ability to speak your word believingly, and know that the activity of mind as law will manifest the good you choose. 4. Declare your good, and know it is made manifest. Let there be no doubt or worry. 5. Act in every practical way you can to bring your prosperity into being. I am prospered because I believe in my prosperity. I accept the responsiveness of the universe. The more you make such statements, sincerely believing in them, cultivating a feeling of joy, and accepting them as true, knowing your perfect right to do so, and realizing that universal mind is bringing them to pass, the more fully you will be establishing the foundation for the prosperity you desire. Chapter 4. Rebuilding Your Life. It is time to consider a larger concept, and to attain a higher spiritual understanding. You have learned something about what we may call the structure of universal mind and of your relationship to it. You have caught a glimpse of how to make use of that knowledge to bring about good health and financial success for yourself. However, there is a great spiritual law which applies to a vastly wider range of subjects and which can apply to everything in life. One way it may be stated is, man, as a son of God, inherits the qualities and powers of the Father. To substantiate this, we have the words of Jesus. For one is your Father, which is in heaven, and all ye are brethren. For as the Father hath life in himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life in himself. Further confirmation is to be found in many other religions, in the opinions of philosophers, as well as in the conclusions of many modern scientists. Through eons of time, life has been slowly climbing up the ladder of unfoldment to the present self-conscious state achieved in man. Some degree of consciousness exists in everything, because everything is some form of spirit, and spirit is intelligence. However, there are degrees of intelligence or consciousness. We often hear the expression, consciousness sleeps in mineral life, dreams in plant life, awakens in animal life, and comes to self-consciousness in man. Man, then, stands at the very peak of the evolutionary climb. He is now a self-conscious individual, which means that he not only knows, but knows that he knows. He can think about his own consciousness, and he now has the power of choice, the very summit of life's upward striving. Evolution, through infinite ages, has done much for him. Now, however, if the individual is to continue to progress, he must take things in his own hands and choose to continue his climb. From now on, he ascends because he himself has chosen to do so. In order to do this, he must clearly realize that there is no separation between man and God. Remember, everything is spirit, an expression of the infinite God consciousness. There is nothing in the universe that can hinder your upward climb, your increased awareness of oneness with God, unless you decide not to climb anymore. The vast expanse of an ever-widening upward reach is available to you. In order to promote such growth, you need to recognize the highest qualities in the range of human understanding, and you must cultivate them. Because all of us are sons and daughters of God, it stands to reason that each of us has inherited the Father's qualities, and that they already lie within us, waiting to be recognized and developed. Your own logical reasoning makes it plain that if you are to live a highly successful and happy life, you need to be able to express those innate abilities, which will in turn produce experiences and conditions of success and happiness. If those God-given abilities are to be specifically used by you, you need to know about their nature and source. The statement of Jesus that the Father's life is in the Son surely implies that the Son must grow into the qualities of the Father in order to avail himself of that greater potential. You want to live wholesomely, successfully, and have a worthy place in the world. If you are to do so, you need to get acquainted with the characteristics that make up that kind of life, and then get to work and cultivate them. Each one of us might think of ourselves as an outlet through which the activity of spirit may flow. In fact, it is only as the qualities of God do flow through us that we more fully partake of his nature. And that, after all, is our task, to more fully express the nature of God, the Father. In whatever degree the qualities of perfection are part of our general conduct, to just that degree are we making God known to mankind. We are being true to our sonship only insofar as our inheritance of the Father's nature is portrayed by us. Each of us has the privilege and the responsibility of being a clear channel for the flow of God through us, as us. What then are these qualities which must be ours? Life, love, wisdom, intelligence, peace, creativity, beauty, joy. Unless all of these are experienced fully in your life, you need to become more aware of your unity with God. The God qualities are an integral part of you. They lie deep within you, whether you admit it or not. At the center of your being are life, love, wisdom, intelligence, peace, creativity, beauty, and joy. Immediately, you recognize that if all persons made use of these qualities, actually lived them, there could be no inharmony, no lack, no ignorance, no illness, no sordidness, fear, or sadness. Growth into our godlike nature was proclaimed by Jesus to be the way, the truth, and the life. It is to this high consciousness that we aspire, and as it unfolds within us, these qualities are developed. What Jesus did, we too must do. We have no reason not to fully believe and accept his amazing statement, "The works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do." You honestly do want to accomplish and achieve whatever will produce for you the wholesome, happy, and successful life, the joyous, healthy life, which your awareness of the nature of God holds out for you. To attain these things, you must recognize that you have, by nature, the ability within yourself to attain them. And then you must cultivate those parts of your nature which will let these qualities develop in you. The first step for you to take involves becoming aware that you already have the God qualities you wish to cultivate and experience in everyday life. This truth is so important and astonishing that you may not grasp its full significance at first. You already have what you want. As a son of God, you automatically partake of his characteristics. You are a part of that which created you. It is your heritage. The qualities of the nature of God, the Father, constitute perfection, and you were born with them. You were created in the image and likeness of God. It may take a good deal of thinking to get this settled in your mind, but when it is, you will find that a big problem in your upward climb is overcome. It is a marvelous revelation to be able to grasp the significance of this magnificent truth, that you already possess godlike qualities because they are your inheritance. God is what you are. So far, these qualities may not have been showing up in your life very clearly, but they are there. So your task now is to consciously bring these inner qualities forth so they can be expressed, used, and experienced. You may not have been very good at it previously. Perhaps you've had negative habits of thinking, feeling, and acting, which kept blocking the right and full expression through you of your divine nature. If this has been so, do not now concentrate your attention on what you want to get rid of. Instead, devote your efforts primarily to the development of the good qualities you already possess, but have not been using. The quick and effective way to eliminate anything you don't want is to disregard it and turn your attention and interest to what is directly opposite. The first of the godlike qualities listed is life. You may not have been a very good example of the perfect life of God. You may have been ill. Right now you may think of yourself as being in a run-down physical condition. If there is something you know you ought to be doing in an objective way to build up your health, do it, since God helps those who help themselves. But the main work lies in your thinking. Instead of thinking illness or weakness, Think life. Life. Take time to think about what most fully represents exultant and joyous life. Life so full of the sheer joy of living that it cannot be still. Young colts frisking in the pasture, kittens at play, children bubbling with energy. Think of them. Convince yourself and know that life fills your whole body. Know that you not only have life, but you are life. Dwell upon this thought. Rejoice in it. Declare it. Give thanks for it. And accept life as yours right now. Start expressing it in any and every way you can. Your life is the life of God within you. Keep affirming this continuously. Accept your physical wholeness as the perfection of God in you. Be happy about it, and know that more and more it makes itself manifest in your body. Remember, you are God's creation. His life is your life. Do not belittle that heritage. You may need to cultivate the quality of love more than any of the others. Recall the words of Jesus. For one is your Father, and all ye are brethren. When you stop to really consider this truth, that God is your spiritual Father, and that all others are your brothers and sisters, there cannot be any foundation for antagonism toward anyone, since God is not divided against himself. This leaves the way open for loving thoughts about others and about yourself. You are a child of God, and therefore you should have a very high opinion of yourself. No foolish self-conceit, but reverent understanding of your wondrous relationship to God. Tell yourself over and over again that the quality of love lies within you, and that naturally you should be expressing it. Think first of those whom you love, because of their nearness and dearness to you. Dwell upon their good qualities. Think of those people by name, and specify some admirable traits they possess. Kindle within your emotions a warm glow of feeling about them. Now remember that all other people are just as truly worthy of your love, and if they are to express into finer and more beautiful ways of living, they need your love. Spend a few minutes with thoughts of love for all the world, which is sorely in need of furnish. This is not mere idle wishing. It is a definite service you can render. Your thoughts of love to mankind carry a blessing to the far corners of the globe. Do not neglect to exercise this privilege. You surely wish at times that you had a greater supply of wisdom, intelligence, but you already have it. Sit quietly by yourself and know that as God's child, your wisdom is unlimited. Believingly, know that Universal Spirit, all wisdom, is now making known to you everything you need to know for right decisions, correct choices, proper plans. You need to convince yourself again and again that infinite wisdom is yours to use as you choose. Know that it responds immediately to your every need. Believe it. Joyously accept it. Continue to assert this, and your way will be made plain to you. Do you feel that you are out of harmony with any person or situation? Is there resentment in your thinking? Is there any sign of jealousy or envy gnawing away inside you? Are you fearful or worried about something? If any of these problems are disturbing you, you need but turn your attention to the fact that God can only be peace and harmony. Let go of all the tenseness in your body. Forget all the mean feelings you may have. And let your body, emotions, and mind rest in a deep awareness of that peace which is God. Be still, still in every way, and accept the peace of God, knowing it now heals everything within you that hurts, and that its calming action enfolds all your experience. Think peace. Feel peace. Know that you are peace, because you are a definite, specific expression of God, manifesting as you. Because life, as love, wisdom, and peace, functions through your thinking, there is nothing to hinder its creative action in and through you. God the Father has given all power to you, the child. When you recognize and express the godlike qualities you have always possessed, you can use them creatively for a better life. Beauty and joy, for example, are two of life's greatest attributes. Beauty starts to shine through your life as you think beauty, and it makes itself manifest because it flows from and is inherent in the other godlike qualities. Life, both inner and outer, becomes so enriched that joy will permeate your whole being. You experience all these qualities, not by searching for them, but by recognizing them deep within yourself. They are your inheritance. Live these qualities. Declare your good, believe in it, and act accordingly. Then you achieve the worthwhile life. You will not accomplish all of this in 1 week, for it involves a re-education of yourself, and that takes time. But you have made a start. The results will encourage you to continue steadily. Others will see a change in you much sooner than you will realize it yourself. So don't analyze yourself too closely. Just go ahead and grow. Your acceptance and expression of the one life will ever expand. By such simple procedures as these, men and women have been lifted out of unhappiness, illness, poverty, inharmony, and unemployment into wholesome, productive, and highly successful living. These are definite, scientific, and spiritual techniques. Follow them if you would move into that glorious realm which awaits those who choose to attain and to act accordingly. As He is, so are we in this world. Chapter 5. You're in charge. The old Greek advice, "Man, know thyself," is of profound significance to us all. In fact, we must know ourselves more fully if we are to lead the successful, happy, and useful lives we desire. We see that knowing ourselves better involves understanding our spiritual nature, and also understanding the interrelationship of our mind, body, and emotions, so we can control them wisely and direct them for our own welfare. All is spirit. Spirit is mind. Mind is one. There is no separation between God and you, except to the degree you think you are separated. If you believe you are locked in a room, and believe it so firmly that you do not even try the doors and windows, the results are exactly the same as though you were locked in, though the truth may be that there is no lock, and you are free to go as you please. Your belief is all that lies between you and freedom. Likewise, you need to banish forever any belief that there is a barrier between God and you. You are in God-mind. You are of God-mind. You are God-mind made manifest in human form. So you want to be sure that your thinking is not in conflict with itself, and that you have clear, concise thoughts about your true nature. The science of mind teaches you to understand your true nature, so you can live happily, successfully, and with good health, and gradually grow in your expression of God within you. Whatever will tend toward these results should claim your attention. This, in fact, is the kind of practical spiritual thinking you want to learn how to do. Thus, you are ready for the next step. Consciously directing your thought so right and good results are constantly being brought forth in your life. Let us start with knowing yourself and see if we can find a new way of thinking which will create better results in your life than the old ways. We have found that infinite mind, as law, creates and sustains all things, and so it is of prime importance to us. The law also acts on those persistent thought patterns which have become habits. Every day, therefore, we should be adding to those habits which are desirable, now that we know how to do it and how they work. You can add to your supply of good habits by cultivating cheerfulness. It is one of the most helpful traits anyone can have. Thankfulness is another. When we think of how much we have for which to be thankful, it would seem that every moment should be filled with gratitude. A happy expectancy of good is also something to which more attention should be given, until it becomes a fixed habit. You can think of many others, but unless you are really developing such habits, you are not taking advantage of that exceedingly valuable aspect of the law of mind, which is always ready and willing to accept whatever you insist upon, sustaining it as a habit, which then will function without your having to think about it consciously. In this process of knowing yourself, you find that mind, in its operation as law, in its subjective nature, has another characteristic to which you must give attention. It is also the storehouse of memories of former experiences. You may think you have forgotten most of the trivial incidents of childhood, though some few remain vivid in your memory. But thousands of events, acts, circumstances, influences, and experiences of your whole life, including childhood, are stored away in the subjective part of your mind. In very large measure, they are what color your life today. Many of them have helped to form your attitudes of happiness, courage, self-reliance, hope, faith, initiative, industry, and all the other good qualities you have. Here also are stored the memories which may cause many troublesome experiences you encounter. One is usually not able to look back into his life and determine exactly what made a certain impression on him and led to the development of positive qualities he now possesses. Really, the total of many individual impressions makes up these good qualities. The same is true in regard to negative qualities. A person really does not know, usually, precisely how he came to have certain attitudes, thought habits, or ways of reacting to certain conditions. Irritability, lack of poise, or other negative character traits all seem to be a part of oneself. In many cases, one does not even know he has such characteristics. "Why, that's just my nature. I've always been like that," you may exclaim if your attention is called to certain ways you are reacting to what affects you unpleasantly. And you are honest in saying this. But this isn't your real nature. For you are made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, in principle, you are perfect. You could not be otherwise, because perfection is your birthright. What you really are is life, love, wisdom, intelligence, peace, creativity, beauty, and joy. These are your true characteristics. Anything less is something that has entered your thinking and been placed in subjective mind, where it was acted upon by the law of mind, whether you knew it or not, and brought into being. So your thoughts, past and present, manifest in your conduct and relationship with others whom you contact. But if I don't know what is down there in my mental storehouse, what can I do about it, you ask? And it is only reasonable that you should. So you first need to realize that there may be undesirable qualities in that storehouse. And second, you must learn how to clean them out. You no doubt can readily recall a number of incidents which left a scar on your thinking. Things you don't forget, which continue to tinge your outlook. And for each one you do remember, there are probably dozens which have entirely faded from consciousness. Still, they are there, steadily influencing or creating your total experience in life. What to do about them? That's the question. Remember that one very important trait of mind in its action as law is obedience. It creates without question. It responds to your firm convictions and beliefs. This should settle any question about how to clean out unwanted thoughts, because now you know that your thoughts of good, acting as a command and a directive, clean out from that storehouse everything negative and detrimental to your well-being. This does not mean you must refresh your memory of old influences and events which did you harm. There's no need to know all about them or to review them. But you do want to get rid of them, because you cannot afford any longer to harbor anything injurious. When you make an affirmative declaration, know perfectly well that it will be fulfilled. Then keep your conscious thought free of doubts, or of wondering how it should be done, or when. Otherwise, you will be hindering the production of the desired results. It is also productive to declare your good when you are not thinking of 1,000 other things. Then the law of mind will have a clear and concise pattern for its action. There is no one without some negative ideas and concepts stored away in his subjective mind, though he is probably totally unaware of many of them. Would it not then be wise for you to declare affirmatively, day and night, for as long as necessary, that the highly important work of cleaning out the storehouse is now being done? Suppose in 6 months you could banish the emotional and mental rubbish that has been accumulating there for years and years. Wouldn't that be about the most important thing you could do? During the day, and as you are about to fall asleep, think of all the positive and desirable character traits you can, whether you are now expressing them in your life or not. Then declare that all which is contrary to them is cleared out, and that only the positive and desirable traits are being established as your experience by the creative action of your thought. Know that they fill your whole life and being. Be confident and happy in the knowledge that it is entirely within your right, power, and ability to discard and remove the wrong thought patterns of the past. Get a thorough job of cleaning done, and you immediately start to fill your whole experience with what is godlike. Continuously, day and night, this willing, powerful, obedient servant, the law of mind, is busy fulfilling your orders, your believing thought. Soon you can begin to see the difference in yourself. Others may see it even before you do. Your whole mental and emotional attitude will change. You will become a new person, completely made over by the creative action of God within you. Some old negative patterns of thought have no doubt resulted in frustration. They've made you feel that, at least in regard to some of your great desires, you are a failure. You may have been stopped in every endeavor along certain lines. You may have become bitter in regard to such matters. Now all of this can disappear from your life. You now know that all things are possible. Perhaps you even see that the very disappointments you met forced you into something better, or that you can now use them as stepping stones to greater accomplishments. Perhaps some of the experiences of the past hurt you cruelly. Your emotional nature was deeply, deeply injured, and you thought you would never forget that event. Well, it doesn't matter whether you've forgotten it or not. It is now healed and rendered ineffective, for you have insisted, declared, demanded, and accepted that all negatives be cleared away. The obedient, willing, powerful action of God mind within you has done it. Although you may feel you've been talking only to yourself, remember that all mind is one, and you really have been turning this matter over to the action of universal mind. That is why the results are so sure and so satisfactory. You may never have admitted that you felt inferior to others, but there probably have been times when you were timid, shy, reluctant, or fearful about attempting something. These are evidences of a thought pattern deep within you which silently suggested that you were inferior. And you accepted that suggestion, even if you didn't put it into words. So let's give the matter a little more attention. We are trying to follow the old Greek adage, man, know thyself. To truly know yourself is to realize deeply, sincerely, and constantly that you are made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, all godlike qualities are inherent in you. How, then, can you be inferior to anyone? It is impossible. You not only have, but you are life, love, wisdom, intelligence, peace, creativity, beauty, and joy. If any previous experiences have made you feel otherwise, know that whatever they are, memories of them are now being cleansed. And from now on, you are asserting your dominion over any negative thinking which would keep you from your greater good. Reason it out and come to know that absolutely nothing can deny God in you. Your conscious mind, however, must back up this process with complete cooperation in every thought. The continual implanting of affirmative ideas of good. This is how you put the law to work in the right way, every day and every night. You automatically get rid of negatives by implanting positives. Negatives cannot exist when positives fill the space. When the sunshine of love and confidence fills your whole being, the darkness of the negatives has to disappear. Your emotional nature, the feeling level, is what decides your conduct. The heart is the symbol of the deepest emotions, so whatever you are at heart, whether you recognize it or not, is the key to what you really are. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he, is from the Bible. But it is also a scientific law which you should use daily. Reconstruction has to begin in your heart, your feeling nature. That is why a cleansing of negative habits and memories is of primary importance. There must be a re-education of your emotional reactions. One of the first requisites of a happy and successful life, for instance, is good health. You cannot be healthy if you harbor enemies of wholeness, resentment, fear, self-centeredness, and feelings of guilt. Psychologists and physicians say these are the four great enemies of human personality. To banish them, do not focus your attention on them. Instead, emphasize their opposites. Those characteristics which Jesus urged: love, faith, unselfishness, and moral rightness. W.P. Newsom, in Health, Disease, and Integration, says, hate is poison, not only moral and spiritual poison, but mental and physical poison as well. Dr. E. Stanley Jones cites the following incident. At the close of a meeting, a lady came to me and in a frightened voice said, "Well, if anger may produce a stomach ulcer, I'm never going to get angry again." She wouldn't listen when "Thou shalt not hate" was written in the Bible, but she sat up and took notice when she found it was written also in her own stomach. Simple ideas and rules will help you use the principles of science of mind for peace of mind, health of body, and buoyancy of spirit. These three aspects of man's nature are so closely interrelated that what affects one part has a very definite bearing on all other parts. You can build bodily health by being emotionally healthy, happy, enthusiastic, hopeful. As you stimulate concepts of spiritual wholeness, you intensify joyous emotional activity. Know that the good cheer, the happiness, and the joyous expectancy you are building up in consciousness is being reflected in your health, your financial success, and in your ability to live a fuller and more abundant life. You determine your own welfare. Chapter 6. The Power of Directed Emotions. The special attribute which self-consciousness gives us is the power of choice. This is certainly a supreme gift of God to humanity. It enables men and women to choose their own destiny, accepting divine wisdom and power in such ways that they can have their chosen destiny become actual experience. It is true, however, that every privilege brings its corresponding responsibility. The right and power to make your own decisions, bad ones or good ones, puts you in a very sensitive position. You now realize you are no longer an automaton, moved about by the caprice of circumstance, solely guided by instincts, or subject to some will superimposed on you. You are free to choose. But you have to take the consequences of that choosing. The universal creative law of mind, of which your actions are a part, creates for you according to your choice. Too often that choice is prompted by unwise, impetuous, emotional attitudes, without due regard to thoughtful decision. Too often a negative emotional reaction directs your decisions, rather than the process of logical thinking. That ability of the conscious mind which enables you to think things out clearly and to decide accordingly. Thus, you need to take clear and certain responsibility for what you are creating with your attitudes. What you are deeply feeling is usually what you are establishing in mind as cause. It is the pattern for what you will receive. To make this more clear, even though you may have thought of this illustration before, think about the soil in the garden. When you wish to produce a crop of any kind, you first prepare the soil, using your best knowledge to get it into the right condition so it will bring forth what you want to grow. When the earth is well prepared, free from obstructions, properly fertilized, and made ready in every way to receive the seed, when the rain and the sun have done their part, and you have carefully selected your seeds and made your plans, then you begin the planting. You plant only those seeds that will grow into what you want in your garden. You may want a row of radishes in between one of beets and one of carrots. Close by in the same soil you plant cabbages, then next perhaps watermelons. From the good, reliable, dependable soil, the radish seed draws whatever is needed to produce white radishes with red skins. But from exactly the same soil in the very next row, you get carrots, bright orange yellow all the way through, and tasting not one bit like the radishes. And on the other side are deep red beets of still another texture and taste. All the other kinds of seeds bring forth according to their own nature, and this is the point. You knew they would. That is why you planted them. No one is wise enough to pick out of the soil the chemicals to produce the different results. But then, no one has to. So your part is fourfold. Get the soil ready, choose the right seeds, plant them, and give the garden the right care and attention. The marvelously wise soil of Mother Nature takes charge of the processes of production. No one can explain how or why this happens. But just because of lack of such understanding, do we fail to take advantage of it? No. Year after year, millions of men and women plant gardens and know in advance what harvest they are going to have. In the spiritual realm, universal subjective mind as law is the soil. It is just as dependable, just as reliable, and functions just as naturally as the soil in the garden. It takes whatever you choose to plant in it and produces accordingly. You personally are the one who determines what kind of results you are going to have. That is one of the principles you need to keep constantly in mind. Whatever you decide with your conscious mind and then commit to the action of the law in quiet trust and in perfect confidence will come to pass for you. No one knows just how thoughts become concrete and tangible. Neither does anyone know how one part of the soil produces a carrot when the very same soil, only a few inches away, brings forth a luscious watermelon. But just because the action is not completely understood, has this kept people from planting seeds? Of course not. Likewise, you can be equally trustful about your spiritual planting. Care was used in preparing the garden soil in order to get it into the proper condition. Here again the analogy to spiritual processes is true. We must remove from the creative medium of mind all negatives. It must be at peace. Everything must be removed that would obstruct the right development of whatever good results we seek. When you are poised, calm, at peace, filled with happy expectancy, and serenely trusting in the fulfillment of the highest good, you are ready to do your spiritual planting. All summer long, the warmth of the sun and the refreshment of gentle rains bring your garden through the various stages of growth to rich maturity, which is the reason you planted it. Your spiritual garden, first planted in the soil of emotional serenity, must be kept nourished with love and watered with expectancy. Do not let any weeds of doubt or anxiety hinder its progress. Give it daily attention, entirely free from worry or fear as to the outcome. Remember, you can trust the soil to do its part if you do your part. In your spiritual garden, you are always planting something: desires, longings, and hopes, or fears and worries. There is no special season set aside for this kind of planting. Therefore, the subjective mind soil must be in the right condition all the time. You are always planting, and you cannot afford to have the good seeds dropped into soil which contains a mass of weeds. You cannot afford to be planting bad seeds, thoughts of negation, worries, fears, angers, hates, resentments. Such seeds will grow just as rapidly as the good seeds, and will bring forth a crop of problems, just as surely and abundantly. The soil of the garden has no power or inclination to reject bad seeds while accepting good ones. Similarly, your subjective mind level, the creative medium of law, also is entirely impersonal, and will just as readily take your negations and produce for you a crop of illness, poverty, hardship, difficulty, or inharmony. So be careful about your planting. When you first start to get your garden ready, you are likely to find that it contains a good many stones, weeds, hard chunks of earth, or rubbish. These need to be cleaned away if the soil is to produce as you desire. Similarly, old complexes, attitudes, and habits certainly will ruin your harvest in the spiritual realm unless you get them out. One thing that often has to be removed is a sense of inferiority. All you really need to get rid of it is to realize you are God's child. God is what you are. So you are inferior to no one. Some may be more talented along certain lines than you, but deep within each person lies the very same life, expressing in an individual manner through particular talents and abilities. You are made in the image and likeness of God, and therefore you cannot be inferior to anyone in the world. A superiority complex is also a type of weed no one wants flourishing in his garden. It is also removed by realizing that all of us are God's children and are filled with His qualities, that each of us is a superior expression of life and expresses that life according to our nature. To bring about continuous unfoldment and the accomplishment of desired results, get your garden cleaned up. Then do the right kind of planting. Even though you may not be troubled by what are usually known as inferiority or superiority complexes, you still may have a sense of self-condemnation, a frame of mind which has been referred to as a guilty conscience, which thwarts your efforts toward happiness and success, and keeps you so disturbed that your highest efficiency is impaired. To be out of harmony with oneself in this way is indeed a sad condition. Many people were brought up to be so deeply aware of some sort of critical inner monitor, one which was usually accusing them of something, that they've had a pretty hard time getting away from it. The sad part is that with a more mature judgment, many have come to know that most of the little things which were considered wicked in childhood are now found to have nothing of evil in them. Early training may have led some to a belief that the wearing of bright colors, for instance, was a sin. To read a story, no matter how high the moral tone, if it was not an actual fact, was evil. These and 100 other narrow restrictions bind and limit people. Because you were just an ordinary boy or girl with a natural yearning for what was banned, you may have found some way to wear the forbidden color, or you secretly and guiltily read the book. Ever since then, you could have been burdened with a sense of having committed a sin. Such self-condemnation can hang over a person like a cloud, obscuring the outgiving of God's love and the expression of His nature. These illustrations may seem very insignificant, but they are indicative of the problems of many a troubled mind. And even though they may not be active in the conscious mind, they remain active at the subjective level, coloring one's attitudes and actions. We need to be thankful that an all-wise Father has planted within us a guide to the right conduct which we call conscience. But we also need to be careful that we do not allow it to destroy our happiness because of something which, when seen with correct judgment, has no moral wrongness to it. Dr. Smiley Blanton tells us that unless the growth of conscience is wisely directed, the results will be serious conflict. He adds that in the process of conscience building, there are 4 phases. 1, a primitive impulse of love. 2, a profound need for holding our parents' love and being obedient to them. 3, a synthesis of the child's impulse for self-criticism with a parental criticism. 4, the modification of all these feelings by the contact with life. The first 3 of these developmental phases takes place in childhood. Even through all the mature years, much time is spent trying to get rid of a lot that was created in those early formative years. The sad part, though, is that much of the harm done is never undone. We may outgrow the feeling that parents are watching and blaming us for shortcomings, but we are likely to transfer the same feeling to a deep conviction that God is watching for every misdoing, is blaming us, and that punishment of some kind is being handed out or stored up. Often this goads us on to doing other and much worse sins. Certainly when we have done wrong, we ought to be sorry about it and promptly mend our ways. But to be wallowing in negative emotions and not doing anything constructive about the matter will do us no good. The complexes, bad weeds, have to be rooted out of our spiritual garden. And the way to remove a negative is to turn our attention to its opposite, positive good, and cultivate it. So we know the qualities of God's nature, and we know how to develop them. The conscious mind must learn to sit in the driver's seat and direct what takes place. Emotions must be controlled. And if we are to be successful gardeners, we must see to it that the right kind of planting is done. We must learn to rule our own lives. He that ruleth his spirit is better than he that taketh a city. Even the simplest little device which brings this procedure down from the abstract and puts it into concrete form is exceedingly helpful. Any expedient which tends to make you feel that you are taking the right step will be of tangible value. So learn to praise yourself for the qualities you want to develop. Be as kind and encouraging to yourself as you would be to anyone else who is trying to improve. Your whole life, thought, body, and emotions will soon respond to the praise you give it, and you will really develop the good qualities desired. Remember, you are always planting something. Chapter 7. The Personality of Value. If there is a type of personality that pays, and there is, you naturally want to know more about it. You want to bring it forth in your own life and be in a position to reap the benefits from it. First of all, what is personality? For many years, philosophers and psychologists have discussed this elusive something known as a good personality. They've tried to explain it. They've sought to show its desirability and how to acquire it. Probably they will continue to do so, and the longer they do, the greater will be the number of explanations given. A definition which seems to meet our requirements at this time is, personality is the way a person expresses his or her individuality. Let us separate this into its key parts and see if we can reveal its true significance. Personality means the characteristics a person displays, the degree to which he has developed certain traits and qualities, and the way in which he shows them forth in his life, appearance, speech, actions, attitudes, the way he appears to the rest of the world. Expresses his individuality. Personality is the result of what a person does, his thinking, his emotions, his actions, with what he actually is, his individuality. He is a child of God, individualizing all the qualities of God. According to this spiritual heritage, he has every characteristic of spiritual father: life, love, wisdom, intelligence, peace, creativity, beauty, and joy. The more you come to realize your true spiritual nature, the more you will be able to let it flow through you and express as your personality. The more you will be able to show to all the world your understanding of life. The clearer your thoughts will be about your real nature, and the more you will be able to experience it. You are an individual, and you must express that individuality to the fullest extent as your personality. To the degree that you fail to recognize or express your individuality, you will be denying yourself the experience of the joyous attributes of life. That which others know you to be through your personality will be good or bad, depending upon what you know you are. So proclaim yourself with no uncertainty to represent the highest qualities you know God to be. Now that you know developing a good personality is truly possible for everyone, let us consider some aspects of personality. Social. This aspect of personality is probably of greater importance than any other trait one may develop. Those with a good social personality get along well with others. They are always desirable associates. The simple, easy, sure way to test your own personality in this respect is to ask yourself candidly, do people like to have me around? If they do, you may be sure that your social personality is a pleasing one. Of what value to you is it for them to like having you around? It adds to job security, brings you opportunities for advancement, draws many friends to you, and makes life a happy experience. Physical. A good personality is likely to include good physical health, for health of body is the outpicturing of health of mind. If you accept the perfection of God indwelling in you, you automatically assure yourself of good health. If there were no other inducement to the cultivation of a good personality, this in itself would be enough. Financial. The rewards of a godlike personality are beyond computation. It holds the secret to abundance, ensures business and professional success, and opens the way for financial remuneration. Often financial rewards are dependent to a considerable extent on our ability to bring all of our capabilities to bear on a situation with strong focus. One whose personality is agreeable, kindly, considerate, and tolerant usually meets little or no opposition. He does not ordinarily have to fight for what he knows is right. In fact, others easily fall in line with what is good and right. If temporarily he needs to set aside his own desires, he does so gracefully, and in a short time, events and conditions become readjusted. He soon finds things going in the right way. A healthy personality is the key to financial success. Spiritual. The individual who attunes himself to God is constantly striving to reproduce in his own life high spiritual qualities. And as a result, those qualities daily become more and more fully expressed through his personality. He is so deeply interested in being about the Father's business that he steadily grows in his ability to reflect the attributes of God. So one with a well-developed personality is a happy person. Because of his social, physical, financial, and spiritual well-being, his happiness is assured. Even in the midst of the very demands of a busy life, he is ever serene, poised, and at peace with himself, his fellow men, and his God. We arrive then at three conclusions concerning the type of personality worth developing. 1. A good personality involves sending forth those God qualities which lie inherent in you. 2. A good personality enables you to live so your presence is desired. Others like to have you around. 3. This results in your having more advantages than would otherwise be possible. One of these is the opportunity to experience more abundance of all kinds, including money. During the worst years of the Depression, a group of psychologists from Harvard set out to investigate for themselves the real cause for the layoffs which were so prevalent. They knew that business was exceedingly slow and often did not warrant keeping a full quota of employees. But why were some discharged and others retained? What was the determining factor? If this could be uncovered, it might be of great help to many and enable them to avoid being laid off. The investigation involved 4,000 men in Boston for a period of a year and represented all classes of workers, unskilled, skilled, professional, clerical, and executive, so as to get a general cross-section of the situation. In every case, the facts were secured from both sides, employer and employee. Here are some of the startling facts that were revealed. The reports showed that instead of the majority of reasons for dismissal being poor business, necessity for curtailing, reducing overhead, and similar remarks, which the investigators expected to receive, only a small number of those who had been dismissed lost their jobs because of such reasons. When all the figures were compiled, it was found that 16% had lost their jobs because of inefficiency or distinct lack of ability in their particular work. 8% were out of work because their behavior violated customary standards for personal conduct. In a few cases, gross misdemeanors were involved. 13% had been dismissed for miscellaneous reasons, including decreased business for the firm. 63% made up the remainder, and all of them had lost their positions in that crucial period when it was practically impossible to get other employment, simply because they did not get along well with their associates. The survey showed that in 1 year, in one city, out of 4,000 cases investigated, a total of 2,520 men lost their chance to make a living, not because of not being needed, not for any crime, not because of lack of ability, but simply because their personalities were such that others did not like to have them around. If no other illustrations were ever encountered, this survey should be enough to prove the money value of a pleasing personality. During the past 50 or so years, business and professional men, and especially educators, gave much attention to an individual's intelligence quotient. How high is his IQ was often one of the first questions asked when a person was being considered for almost any position. This was done to ensure that workers were given jobs which suited themselves and their employers most satisfactorily. However, any good thing can be carried too far. Any virtue may become a vice by overemphasis. This may have been the case in regard to the IQ, for keen, hard-headed employers came to see that a man's IQ is not nearly so important as his PQ, personality quotient, and this is what they are now insisting upon. Is he the kind of person who makes friends easily and gets along well with the public as well as with his coworkers? Will he be an asset to the company? With this in view, authorities at one of our leading universities decided to make a survey as to the relative merits of the IQ and the PQ in the experiences of some of their graduates. At commencement day 1 year, a group of 100 men with brilliant IQs were listed, without their knowing it, and their careers watched for results. All of them had done remarkably well academically, but had failed to mix with their fellows, probably because of their great interest in studies. They had been the typical introvert types, interested solely in meeting high educational standards and subsequently shutting themselves off from their companions. Another group of 100, chosen the same day from the graduating class, consisted of men whose academic standings had been so mediocre that they barely succeeded in passing, but whose genial qualities of personality made them so popular that they were greatly liked by all who knew them. They had probably given of themselves in student activities too freely for the good of their scholastic records, but all through their college careers, they had happy and useful associations and made many friends. In neither of the two groups did anyone know he was being made the subject of a test. Because it usually takes a professional man from 5 to 7 years to get established as he passes through the so-called starvation period,
The university authorities felt it would not be fair to announce any results until all had 10 years in which to approve themselves. This, they felt, would be a reasonable test, and they were eager to see what they could learn as to the value of the much-vaunted IQ. The group of 100 was large enough to average out individual exceptions. It really was a good test. And at the end of the 10 years, it was found that the salaries of the high PQ men were, on the average, over 3 times greater than the salaries of the men with brilliant IQs. These PQ men liked people. People liked them and liked to have them around. They progressed in their business or profession, led happy lives, and made money. So, to develop a personality that pays in good dollars and cents, in happiness, friendships, and health, is something of specific interest to all of us. It is a definite part of our spiritual training. It is one of the steps in that upward climb which takes us into greater spiritual awareness. Such aspiration has its rightful place, for it points the way to wholesome, happy, efficient, God-like living. How shall we attain such a personality, one that pays? We need to constantly remind ourselves of the God-like qualities which by nature lie within us, and we must renew our daily persistent efforts to bring them into manifestation in our lives. The process involves thought and spiritual awareness, but it also needs constantly to be accompanied by those objective activities which translate our higher resolves and rich aspirations into action. In our contact with everyone, we must be aware of the necessity and the high privilege of putting all the good, kindly, thoughtful, helpful, encouraging, and inspiring qualities we learn into actual practice as we deal with people. Your thoughts must be right, your motives right, your eagerness to build a God-like life far more outstanding than a desire to be a good money-maker. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, is a statement one cannot afford to ignore. Your thinking must be right, and you must remember what is said in Philippians. Whatsoever things are true, honest, just, pure, lovely, of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. This is not only good moral advice, but it is psychologically sound, and it is good common sense. You have seen the reasons why you ought to be cultivating a fine personality. You have seen the advantages of it, and common sense tells you to do it. Your privilege and responsibility is to cultivate the personality that pays. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So if there is anything you dislike about your life circumstances, state clearly in one sentence what you do want. For example, you might be accustomed to saying, "My work is dull and monotonous, and I don't like my associates." Now, change that thought to one which expresses exactly the opposite. "I am steadily finding new interest in my work and pleasing qualities in those about me." Regardless of what your problem is, do your best to affirm its opposite, that which you want. You may not succeed totally the first day or week, but continue all day and evening for a whole month, and see if you don't completely rebuild your attitude in regard to that certain problem. This practice will pay rich rewards. Also develop a habit of looking for the good in others and praising them for it. Think of the qualities you may particularly need in your own special work. Alertness, energy, initiative, speed, appearance, faithfulness, poise, or cheerfulness. Whatever they are, resolve to improve yourself. You are the only one who can improve your personality. But it is important, and anything which helps you do so is valuable. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, and you and your affairs will be renewed as you transform your thinking. Chapter 8. Finding Life's Riches. What a man believes and does determines the results he gets. But some may say, well, this is a very good theory, but it doesn't work out in actual life. I've always done the best I could, though things don't go right for me. I'm not one of the lucky ones. But we are once again impressed with the fact that the responsibility for what a person experiences is a result of his own thinking. This is the direct result of being human, of possessing consciousness, that aspect of human development which gives man his right and power of choice. The primary fact is that we desire greater good, health, money, harmony, better business, greater supply, different and better employment, or anything else which will add to our joy of living. How does the science of mind teach us to get it? Common sense says you first need to understand spiritual law, that law which you are attempting to use. You need to remind yourself that spirit surrounds you and is unlimited and is the source of all things. Also, that it is always becoming something in your experience, and the nature of that something is decided by you. You must remember that law is entirely impartial and neutral. It does not care what demand is made upon it. It produces whatever is planted in it, just as does the soil in a garden. Certainly by this time you have that understanding. You know about this spiritual activity, even if you do not always use it for your good. Even if the garden illustration is very simple and has already been given repeatedly, remember this important part of it. Though you cannot understand the processes in your garden as the seeds develop into plants, you do not have to wait for a complete understanding of this marvelous process of nature. You just go ahead and make use of it. This is your guide for right now. What does it matter if you do not see how a thing you desire can actually be? You are after results. That's what counts. You know that the radish seed will produce radishes and nothing else. And you know that the only thing which can grow from your carrot seed is carrots. Because you know, you act accordingly. You accept this as a law of nature on which you can depend. Let's see now if you can be just as sensible in the matter of your spiritual planting, where you need that same kind of acceptance. Such acceptance has to involve a deep conviction, a perfect belief. Do not try, by force of will, to compel yourself into this belief. Let go of all striving. God's way of doing things must be the best way. Just say to yourself, this is the way such things are done. I've learned enough to know that this is God's method of getting results, and I accept it. I believe it. I know it is so. Yes, I accept. The particular result to which I am now giving my attention is already mine. The great limitless source of supply is merely waiting for me to place my order. Because I have sufficient understanding of infinite law to know this is the way my good comes to me. And because I have chosen what it shall be, I am meeting the requirements of the law. So I know this particular good is mine now. I feel the experience of it. I picture myself enjoying it. I see its desirability and value. I am planning how it adds to my experience of worthy living. Because of what it is to me or the special ways in which I use this good, I am of greater helpfulness and inspiration to others. This is one of the reasons why I chose it. I know that my main work in life is to be about my Father's business. And this good makes me able to do that more effectively. Whatever I receive is only being entrusted to me as a worthy steward of God's abundance. Only as I use talents, privileges, opportunities, responsibilities, or funds wisely will they be a benefit to me. I shall not bury them in the ground. I shall not hoard them. I shall use them constantly, so they serve others. In that service they shall increase. I produce intelligently and plentifully with what is entrusted to me. The good I have chosen is now mine. Now we need to consider the process of building a mental equivalent. We need to feel that the desired good is actually ours now, and it is. This is how the law works. It manifests what we accept. This is faith. When this deep consciousness has been reached, it is a good idea to put the specific desire into words and to speak them forth with perfect assurance of your right and power to do so. This plants the seed in a spiritual soil, and it confirms the results in your own consciousness, so you feel a rich and happy satisfaction in knowing you have now done your part in the creative sequence. You have prepared the soil, chosen your seed, and planted it. It is now committed to the creativity of infinite spirit, which brings forth your crop. This declaration unifies faith with works. It is affirmative thought made with spiritual awareness, with understanding and acceptance. The fundamental thing you have to remember is that this is a spiritual process of making yourself fully receptive. So with an attitude of perfect acceptance, make your declaration. Your mental garden, however, will not be a success unless you tend it. It's going to be real work to have it produce the desired results, but you will not be satisfied with anything less than complete fulfillment. From the mental equivalent part of our endeavor, we now move to the right action part, for there is work to be done. Surely the first part, establishing the mental equivalent, is of prime importance, for unless you had chosen your good and declared it, there would have been nothing from which to expect returns. Still, if you do not give it continuous attention, you cannot expect a very significant return. But you will be so thrilled by what you do see developing, and by the satisfaction that always comes from achievement, that the process will not seem difficult. In fact, it really is a pleasure, and you are richly repaid for all you do. So the good you have chosen and planted in the realm of cause requires definite action on your part, and it needs to be right action too. God does for us what he does through us is a truth of such importance that we can never afford to ignore it. God helps those who help themselves is but another way of putting it. Everything you can do objectively to promote this chosen good is, of course, what you are going to be doing. Anything less would be childish and infantile. You don't expect to get anything without paying the right price for it. That price in the objective world usually consists of good work, systematic study, personal development, or any concrete action that represents your part in the transaction. When you planted your garden, you knew it would require tending all summer. Now you have planted some great, sincere, worthy desire in the realm of cause, and you must likewise be sincerely willing and eager to do your objective part so it will develop for you. This is right action. This is works. Faith without works, as the Bible says, is dead.
The phrase right act has still deeper and slightly different meaning. During your meditation time, when you contemplate what your choice is, when you know it is a worthy one, and particularly when you know it is secondary to the basic one, seek ye first the kingdom of God. You also know that in most cases, its concrete development will involve activity on the part of other people. Someone may need to participate in a certain way, or the cooperation of several persons may be required, or readjustment may be needed in a situation that now seems to stand in the way of the fulfillment of your desire. Whatever it is, no person is wise enough to know just what and how everything should take place. You always need to remember that even when you understand a situation thoroughly and have used your very best judgment, when you think you can clearly see conditions, circumstances, and results, finite mind, your individual mind, can see only superficially. Infinite mind, however, can see and know all that is underneath, above, and around, past, present, and future, all of which is entirely shut off from your limited conscious vision. The particular adjustment which you think is desirable may not, after all, be the right one. There may be a dozen different aspects of which you know nothing, and all of them may have a definite bearing on the right outcome of this desired good of yours. What then can you do? Will you throw up your hands in helpless despair, saying, "What's the use? I don't know what ought to be"? Not at all. Man's mind is a particular expression of God-mind, through which God's wisdom, as a creative and directive action, may be brought to bear upon particular situations and circumstances. Such action is always right, because it is God action. Therefore, part of your declaration is setting into motion whatever shall be right action in order that what is best for all will be brought to pass. With perfect assurance, you may declare this right action as taking place. Then you are sure of the right results. Some of your most carefully thought out and diligently executed activities may seem for the moment to fail in promoting your desired good, but do not judge too quickly. What's going on may be just a step toward the fulfillment of those unseen processes which eventually bring to pass what is wanted. No hasty judgment should be made as to the effectiveness or non-effectiveness of what you have done. Back of it all, there must be a calm assurance that right action is manifesting in the events that occur, for you have declared your acceptance of it. Whether the right action is taking place as a result of your own efforts, the work of others, or any one of 100 different events, contacts, influences, or circumstances, it does not matter. You can be certain that what is right is being done. The process involves intellectual understanding of spiritual law, emotional conviction that the chosen good is truly yours, the oral declaration of it, to fasten it firmly in your consciousness, and the final knowledge that it is established as the law of your experience. There must also be spiritual realization that everything conforms to law and order, and that nothing can keep your good from being developed in the right way and delivered to you. There always must be the physical activity on your part which rounds out the procedure. This is the combination of faith and works which guarantees success. About a week or so after you planted your garden, did you come home one afternoon and spend an hour or two working in it? Did you look it over and decide it was a failure because it had not come to maturity? Did you decide that it was all a mistake on your part to think you were going to reap any results? Did you say, "Nothing has come of it. I'll never try that again"? Certainly you did not. You knew it would take time. It also takes time for one to grow in spiritual knowledge and realize the power of declaration, acceptance, and activity. Growth is not instantaneous. It is gradual. Results do not often come immediately. In nearly all cases, the desired results come to pass through normal human agencies. If we need more money, it does not rain down from the sky. It comes to us through natural, normal channels. In practically all cases, the fulfillment of our desires is tied up with other people and what they think, say, and do. The right action you have decreed may prove to be something that involves considerable time, but you have to accept right now that the desired results are manifest. When you know deep in your heart that what is right is taking place even though you see no evidence of progress, you surely have no occasion for impatience or disappointment. Happily, expectantly, you go ahead doing what seems wise, energetically and enthusiastically, but free from all stress or strain. Your order has been placed in the universal storehouse, and there is nothing to be concerned about. Remember these 2 points. 1. Your own spiritual awareness is growing. 2. The events, influences, and activities that will produce right action for you are going through natural processes which will bring the right result, whether or not you see the steps in the process. If you had no experience in planting, cultivating, and tending crops, it would be foolish to start with a 1,000-acre farm of diversified products. It would be better to begin with a few acres while you were learning farming principles. Gradually, you would get ready for larger ventures later on, with increased assurance and fewer doubts. The same is true in the spiritual realm. It is wise to use this principle first in the small affairs of everyday living. To become skillful, you may need lots of practice. The principle is unfailing, but you need skill in using it. So don't postpone the positive use of the law for good until you are faced with a big emergency. Practice today on the small needs. Surely there isn't a day without its own special requirements. Small, perhaps, but confronting you now and demanding solution. Begin today, taking all your hour-by-hour needs and applying the principle of faith and works to them. Just such simple matters as these may present themselves. I want to get that little matter of a neighborhood squabble among the children adjusted. I need to make more efficient collections of my bills this month. My place of business needs some better equipment. How shall I make my advertising bring better results? Greater harmony in my family and among my workers ought to be brought about. I need to improve my skill and earn a higher salary. Keep steadily in mind that faith in this principle is of first importance. Believe, declare, then accept. All of this activates universal mind. Then you act accordingly, for this is your work in the objective realm of experience. Chapter 9, Spiritual Growth. There is something within us which constantly pushes us forward, which demands our continued progress. Inertia may hinder our paying much attention, but this inner urge is always there. It is what keeps us going ahead, sometimes almost against our will. An inherent quality in all people, it asserts itself whether we welcome it or not, because it is what we are, demanding expression. Made in the image and likeness of the Father, we cannot accept stagnation. Something protests against it. We must be moving forward into a higher and more satisfying spiritual stature. This divine discontent is a factor in our very makeup, and unless we are following its promptings, we are not happy. We cannot get away from it because it is a part of our nature. Its activity in us promotes what we call spiritual growth. You are probably well aware that many people seem to have disregarded the important matter of spiritual growth, and insofar as can be seen, they are going down instead of up. But this may be entirely beside the point, because we do not know their inner experiences, their thoughts, hopes, or longings. We do not know just where they are in spiritual awareness, nor how much they had to overcome in order to get even that far. Though we may have known them from childhood, still we cannot really know their background in all its details. Because of this, we cannot possibly know what their efforts toward growth really are. It is not our place to judge them. We have all we can do to look after our own unfoldment, which is something for which we are specifically responsible. It is encouraging to realize that your very nature is such as to keep you growing, and also to provide the instrument through which that growth is accomplished. You have a physical body, a complex emotional nature, and an intellect. These three aspects of your nature are so closely interrelated, and they react so strongly upon each other, that you have a triple set of capacities to be utilized in the process of advancement. You are probably better acquainted with the nature of your physical body than with your emotions and mind, so let us begin with it. The body is the house in which, for the present, you are living, and you need to keep it in good repair by a right mental attitude toward it. Your body is entitled to your respect. The body is particularly responsive to your emotional states. If you are sad, discouraged, gloomy, worried, or fearful, all of which are troublesome emotions, your body immediately reflects that troubled feeling, and your state of health is lowered. The word health is simply the modern version of the Old English holth, meaning wholeness. If you are not healthy emotionally, you cannot be in good health physically. We know now there is such a close relationship between the body and the emotions that we seek to build bodily health through emotional healing. Time ought to be given daily to such building. It is especially wise to keep faithfully in mind such expressions as these. I am filled with the life and love of God. I feel strong and vibrant. God life surges through my entire body. I function normally, wholesomely, and effectively. The power and perfection of God flow through me constantly and keep me in superb health. I rejoice in emotional wholeness. When such statements are contemplated with real happiness, they carry a thrill of joy to every part of the body. They create and maintain an atmosphere of health which becomes a part of new cells that are created. The good feeling which attends such statements becomes an attitude in the body, and if persisted in, becomes a habit, carrying with it the power to continually reproduce itself. This is very important, because everyone sometimes finds himself below par physically, and needs something to bring himself back to normality. One of the best things you can do is to practice the use of such assertions, and also to practice having a healthy body, expanded chest, erect posture, and free and easy carriage, all of which indicate good physical condition. Merely to begin repeating one of the statements will at once tend to reproduce the associated physical condition. These automatic reflexes are wholesome. They cost you nothing in cash. They occupy only a minimum amount of time. They are pleasant to do, and they bring excellent results. By means of such thinking, you also change your environment. You have a better opinion of people. You more clearly see the good in them, much of which may have been hidden. This is something you can easily prove for yourself, and incidentally, it is something you ought to be proving every day. When you think well of someone, and especially when you express that approval, you immediately set a standard for him to which he tries to measure up. It is the quickest way to bring out the desired good qualities in any person. But environment consists of things as well as people, and your appreciation and approval of all that is good, even in things, will sustain an awareness of their desirable qualities in your consciousness, thus making you happier. In addition, it will almost surely bring to mind something you can do to enhance the appearance, condition, or usefulness of those same things, thus further increasing their desirability. Thought does change environment. Affirmative thinking makes it possible for you to work out your plans. This is so important that you can never afford to let negation interfere. Your thought must contain the best, because you want to bring your good to fruition in the best possible way. When you are free from the negation of emotional conflict, your mind becomes a clear, pure channel through which God wisdom flows, and the good you desire is created for you. That is what is needed for you to be successful. Then, too, the ability to think without the interference of negative feelings is necessary to the unfoldment of that deeper spiritual realization which is your highest aspiration. Such realization is an unfoldment eminently deeper than intellectual accomplishment. It is such a conscious unifying of self with the Father that one is aware of a complete oneness. This is an experience one may not be able to put into words, but it is nevertheless so real that no one who experiences it can ever dispute it. It is what all mankind has forever sought, because it is the inherent nature of man eventually to find his true relationship to God as a son of God. Thus, clear thinking, health, happiness, friendships, and prosperity are all important and worthy, but they are also steps on the stairway which man climbs in his ascent to spiritual realization. If we look at it another way, we can say that spiritual realization is the basis of all these expectations. In attaining a high spiritual consciousness, which we call realization, man is automatically assured of all these other things. It is a rule that works both ways. How shall all of this be brought about? That is the practical question you want answered. Through study on the mental level, you have been learning the answer to that query. In a most simple way, you learned how your mind is constituted, how it is an expression and activity of the mind of God, how you can use the creative power of your mind, applying it to your daily experiences, Step by step, you have had a steady growth of understanding and learned how to put that understanding to work. One idea thoroughly understood and put into practice is vastly more valuable than reading books if nothing is done about the information thus acquired. Wide reading in a new field is, in fact, often very confusing. Therefore, get yourself so completely saturated with just a few basic principles that they are firmly established in your mind and built into your thinking as habit. You will then be ready for additional material. Prayer is another part of the procedure for attaining realization. Because of the rich heritage of associations and experiences surrounding the word prayer, it is one of the most powerful and beautiful words in our language. There is something of a benediction in just the word itself. And still, too often, it is not rightly understood. If you think of prayer as simply asking God for what you want, pleading for comfort, for supplies, and coaxing Him for favors, you are sadly limiting the meaning of this wondrous word. Prayer is the contact of man's mind with God-mind in a way that results in bringing to physical reality a desired good. It lifts man into an awareness of his relationship to the spiritual Father. That relationship implies all the rights of sonship. Sonship involves the right to use and enjoy the Father's abundant supplies, and these supplies are material, emotional, and spiritual. We know that the Father is the all-surrounding Spirit, which is everything. We know each person is entitled to his own rich share of that abundance. We have found that effective prayer involves the cleansing of thought, clear affirmation, and right action. Time spent in quietly knowing your right as a son of the one Father, realizing your privileges of sonship, and the giving of grateful thanks. All this is prayer. No modern wording can improve upon the definition in Montgomery's fine old hymn, which begins, "Prayer is the soul's sincere desire, uttered or unexpressed, the motion of a hidden fire that trembles in the breast." For another and much older expression of it, we read in Job, "Thou shalt make thy prayer unto him, and he shall hear thee, and thou shalt pay thy vows. Thou shalt also decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee, and the light shall shine upon thy ways." In the very heart of this statement, we find perfect assurance. There is calm, complete trust. There is perfect knowing. Are prayers answered? Yes, if they are truly prayers. To what degree do the answers correspond to the desired results? Jesus answers that again and again. "According to thy faith, be it unto thee." How shall we pray? Again, Jesus gives explicit directions. "Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." What is meant by the word closet? A quiet room provides privacy, which often encourages effective prayer. Free from all distraction, man and God may enter into free and unconstrained communication. Closet, however, means much more than a private room. It means temporarily shutting the mind to everything that might interfere with the act of prayer. It means shutting the door on all worries, anxieties, fears, and tensions. Everything which might intrude and disrupt the direction of your thought. You are keeping an appointment with God, securing instructions from your Father. You must not let anything interfere with that appointment. You have entered into the closet of your mind, and you are alone with God. Your prayer is a personal experience, and the Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Afterward, you go about your day's activities free from all anxiety, because the Father's wisdom is functioning in and through you. From such communion, you have found new strength, happiness, and guidance. The prayer time experience has provided a sense of vitality and security. Your work can now progress only in the right way. Your affairs shall prosper. Realization is yours. More than this, however, you need to remember that this joy, satisfaction, and sense of oneness must be translated into action in your relations with others. The rich inner experience has to be carried over into an outer experience, which gives joy, courage, help, or specific good of some kind to other people. To retain the value of this inner spiritual experience, you must share it, express it in action. This is a necessity. Study, prayer, and realization are spiritual aspects of your endeavor. But your physical, emotional, and intellectual activities also have their share in bringing about your desired good, which in this case is the unfoldment of your inner spiritual nature. Chapter 10. Better Living Now. For practical purposes, you want to make wise use of your creative ability by using it for physical well-being. If you are ill or in any way below what you consider par, that fact in itself is ample evidence that something needs to be done. No one wants to be ill. This is when you should assert your dominion. You should use your authority, declaring and affirming in prayer that bodily conditions now return to normal. It can be done, and knowledge that it can constitutes one of the great advancements in the modern mental, psychological, spiritual field. The science of mind teaches that because you are a part of the infinite oneness, you can declare your perfect physical condition and it will manifest. This is definite use of spiritual law. Your thought, backed by faith and conviction, is the start of your experience of physical wholeness, which becomes manifest to the extent of your belief in it. The fact and experience of illness is not denied, but you learn to see it for what it really is, the outpicturing of a belief, idea, or pattern of thought. It is but an effect, the result of a cause. It can be changed or discarded, and in its place you may establish as cause, in the creative realm of law, the opposite creative idea, that of perfect health. Whatever is firmly planted in your mind in absolute belief is acted upon by the law of mind and has to come forth in your world of experience. If bodily illness confronts you, do this at least twice a day. Get as comfortable as you can, releasing all tension. Resolve that for at least a few minutes you will forget the bodily discomfort, the pain, the fever, or any other symptom which distresses you. Try to let go, to relax all over, so that all tenseness disappears from your body. Close your eyes and know that your body is in the house in which God dwells, that God is in you as you, that God is what you are. Then quietly, very slowly, with ample time for a deep realization of every word, say, there is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. My body is a manifestation of the living Spirit. It is created and sustained by the one presence and the one power. That power is flowing in and through me now, animating every organ, every action, and every function of my physical being. There is perfect circulation, perfect assimilation, and perfect elimination. There is no congestion, no confusion, and no inaction. I am one with the infinite rhythm of life which flows through me in love, in harmony, and in peace. There is no fear, no doubt, and no uncertainty in my mind. I am letting that life which is perfect flow through me. It is my life now. There is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. You will notice that no particular discomfort was named. You have not asked for anything. You have been trying to realize what you are. This or a similar meditation should be used often during any period of illness. The big job you have is to convince yourself of your natural perfection. When all negation is wiped out of your consciousness and you feel you are a specific part of the infinite, a child of the one Father with His qualities, you have then planted the idea of health in your mind, and it will come forth in your body. This is what effective meditation or prayer does. To bring healing to pass is indeed exercising your rightful dominion over your health. To have direction over your financial affairs is of great importance and value. All that has to be done is to examine once again the basic principle. It covers all your needs. The requirement is that you understand and use the law of infinite mind. Whatever you believingly declare into mind and act accordingly on manifests in your affairs. Are you in need of money right now? Then let your meditation follow along these lines. First of all, enter into the closet of your mind, the quiet, private place of your consciousness. Forget about your needs. Make yourself comfortable. Know that you are going to talk things over with your senior partner. You can trust him, so let your mind be at peace. Lay aside all worries. Spend a few minutes thinking about the many blessings you already have, just the simple things of life. Name some of them and give thanks for them. Be truly grateful for them and say so. Remain in perfect quietness and speaking your words softly, trustfully, and happily. Use such expressions as these. Father, I am looking to you as senior partner in my business affairs for the guidance I need. I know I am led to see and do what is right, so I am supplied with money for my every good need. I now declare that right contacts are established, right influences are set into motion, and right activities are started so that my abundance becomes manifest. I declare there is right action in regard to all my affairs. I know that the universe responds to my believing word, and that right results and rewards are mine. I am guided so that I see the right people, say and do the right things, give the right kind of service, and make myself valuable to others. Money to meet my every good requirement is now mine. I live wholesomely and efficiently, and give generously. I know that abundant funds for doing so are now mine, and they come to me in exactly the right way. I am grateful for this abundant supply. I give sincere thanks for it. I have decreed it, and it is established unto me. I use it freely in the service of God and man, knowing that as it goes out in every way and in loving helpfulness to others, it is constantly being blessed, and that further money will take its place as fast as needed. Now I go out and act accordingly. I express the attitude of abundance. I feel and look prosperous. I believe in my prosperity, and so I prosper. If this meditation is used for the purpose of finding employment, think of God as the great business manager who knows just where to send you for the right contacts. If it is used for the improvement of your present business, take ample time to assert that new activity is now being manifest, that you are finding new ways to make your business more productive, and especially that methods and ways of greater service come to your mind, so that the business will be of more value to others. The senior partner in your business life can always supply you with the right plans, if you believingly decree and accept that it shall be so. Your increased prosperity will probably involve a number of other people, their thinking, influence, cooperation, and perhaps actual activity. But you do not need to know who or where they are. Your senior partner will look after that for you. You have dominion over your business affairs just to the degree you believe you have, and you need to act accordingly. Sometimes a situation arises wherein you need an entirely new idea, and you have no way of knowing what it ought to be. In that case, there is no specific thing to claim, only an idea. But claiming an idea, even when you do not know what it ought to be, is just as specific as though you were claiming quick shipment of goods, a job, money to buy a house, or anything else. If this vague something, an unknown idea, is such that it would solve your difficulties, accept it. Then the central part of your creative prayer time might be worded something like this. Father, as my business guide and counselor, you are supplying me with exactly the right idea, so I can meet all requirements. I am grateful that even when I do not know the specific idea I need, your all-wise mind does know. I shall not permit myself to be worried or hurried about any new plan. I now accept the idea I need and the wisdom to handle all the details intelligently and successfully. The right idea becomes known to me. I accept it at this moment. At the right time, it is presented to me, and I shall recognize it. But right now, this instant, I know that it is already mine. I accept it thankfully, and know I have the ability to carry it out faithfully, happily, and enthusiastically, knowing that it shall succeed richly. I do my part as a worthy junior partner in making life a success. This experience of accepting an idea when you have no information whatsoever as to what it ought to be is one of the most satisfying you can ever have. Assure yourself over and over that your prayer is fulfilled. Don't worry if many days go by without there seeming to be any response. You may be sure that the right developments are taking place. Your affairs are rightly being attended to. Steps are in progress to bring your new idea to you, together with the necessary knowledge and plans for its complete fulfillment. Be still and wait. Believe. Accept. Then, someday, all of a sudden, perhaps when your mind is busy with something entirely different, even some trivial little matter, a flash of inspiration will come, and you will know the idea has come. At first, you may see no possible way it could be carried out. That does not matter in the least. When God supplies an idea, He is wise enough to furnish the plan for implementing it. Give happy, sincere thanks for the idea. Accept it. Know it is the right one. Don't listen to the objections that immediately come to mind. They may be good, sensible ones, too, insofar as you know, but they can't compare with God's wisdom. So when an idea comes from God through your intuition, don't be so foolish as to let old concepts interfere with it. Without any anxiety or sense of haste, mentally accept, in perfect confidence, the details of the plan by which your idea can be carried out. They will come. You must, of course, go about every activity which would support your idea. And don't push things. God's time is the right time. Everything will be made plain for you. Your partnership will continue to be a success. The Father furnishes the ideas, plans, inspiration, and courage as you are receptive to them. You, the Son, carry out those plans by doing the work. The idea is the Father's. Your responsibility is to go about your work happily and successfully. You can have dominion over your business affairs. What is spiritual dominion? Is it not already included in these simple everyday experiences and activities? Yes and no. Everything is spirit. We need always to keep that in mind. The results we have discussed are spirit made manifest in the tangible affairs of life through spiritual law. Complete spiritual dominion, however, implies something more difficult to explain because it is an inner personal experience. It is a state of awareness that man achieves as he completely accepts in himself the Father's nature and knows that he, too, is a part of spirit and therefore at one with the Father. Then he can say, as did Jesus, I and the Father are one. When man has a deep inner feeling that nothing separates him from God, he senses a great flood of satisfaction, peace, strength, and freedom, which never could come except to someone who had chosen to advance into a greater spiritual awareness. Remember that to go beyond the peak of your present growth demands that you choose to do so. Little by little, as you advance, you come into a greater experience of spiritual awareness, which is your natural right. Then you grow into ever greater spiritual dominion. Spiritual growth is the essence and beautiful action of life itself. This is eminently important and is the ultimate reward which reflects in your abilities and activities of daily living. In conclusion, remember that as you grow in knowledge of God, in spiritual awareness, which is every person's goal, you come to an intelligent understanding of spiritual law and how to use it. And through the creative action of your thought as prayer, you may realize and experience your every good desire. And God said, "Let them have dominion."